I'm enjoying it very much. I mean, when you take a job like this, you never quite know what's going to happen. But actually, it's working out really well. The cast is excellent. The chorus is doing really well. The orchestra seems to be brilliant, first rate, and the technical work on the stage, and it's going to be very good, I think. I think, we've done this production, London, I don't know where else, London, Madrid, a couple of other places. This is going to be as good as any of the versions, maybe even the best of all of them. I think it's going to be really good. Otello first of all, it's a total masterpiece. I think it's one of the greatest operas ever written, probably the greatest Italian opera of the 19th century, or maybe the greatest Italian opera ever written. And I'm totally mad about Verdi, and I've done a lot of Verdi's operas, from some of the very early ones up until this fantastic masterpiece. It's an experience, Otello. I mean, it's an interesting retelling of the Shakespeare. It's not really a lot like the Shakespeare play. It takes the Shakespeare play, but it cuts away a lot of the details. It cuts to the absolute kind of bone of the experience, the real essence of the story. It's a big opera. It's a grand opera. It has a lot of people, but really, it's about three people. It's about this strange relationship between this great warrior Othello and this beautiful girl that he's in love with, and this man that his best friend, his assistant, his lieutenant, and it's this very strange psychological triangle between these three people, and the heart of it is very dark and frightening view of human relationships, love, kind of terrible social problems. It's an interesting opera because the whole racial issue is one of the deepest elements in the story, but it's hard to present that when you don't have a black Otello. I think earlier on in history, when people played Otello, they put on blackface and they pretended. I don't think you can do that anymore. Somehow it feels old-fashioned. It feels slightly racist on its own. It feels like a stereotyping of something, so that we have to find a way to what the story is about and to figure out who this Otello is without it literally being about a black man in a white society, which the original play is certainly about that. But so when you're not doing it with a black tenor, then you have to find out the other aspects of who is this outsider Otello, who is this man that everyone thinks is wonderful, and they use him as their general, and he saves their society, and yet he's not really accepted among them, or perhaps he only feels that he's not accepted. Maybe there's something inside him, and it's not his color, and it's not a racial thing, it's just something in his psychology and something in his past, which makes him always not quite fit into the society around him, and which makes him turn on the thing that he most loves, the most precious thing in his life, and so easily turn against this love and destroy it. Well, I mean, I've been directing operas now for, let me think now, almost 40 years. And yes, I mean, I suppose I've changed a lot. I had about 10 years when I started very young, and I had about 10 years in America. And at the time when I was beginning to direct and working around American opera houses, it was an interesting time for opera in America because it was just there started to be new companies in not just at the Metropolitan Opera or the Chicago Opera, or not just in the big cities. It was the beginning of smaller companies around America, and it was a good time because I had great opportunities. There were interesting young singers, and the whole idea of opera as theater, not as a grand concert in magnificent costumes and stuff, but opera as a form of theater. It was just beginning in America then, and I was really a part of it, and I did that for 10 years. But then Europe was really calling to me because, I mean, I've always felt that the real center of opera as theater, Musiktheater, is in Germany. That's where That's where it was really born in the 50s and the 60s. And I always admired German theater very much and German opera, and I gravitated towards Berlin and various places. And I've slowly changed my career, and I moved to London years and years and years ago because I've been very involved with the English National Opera, which is based in London. And I kind of changed my whole focus, and I became very interested in European, not just European opera, but European theater, European art, and the sort of the sense of opera and theater being a real part of the kind of social dynamic and a part of the discussion, political discussion, social discussions, more so than in America, really. And I've found the center of my work and my real home in Europe in the last decades. I, in a way, resist a lot of technological developments. I mean, I don't even own a mobile phone, as we discussed earlier. And on stage, I'm interested really in people and relationships and movement and light, and in a way, stripping away a lot of the larger elements of opera and getting down to the core. And I like to do opera productions that are fairly basic and fairly stripped away. And I'm not so interested really in projections and the whole sort of digital technology. I mean, I use it sometimes because it can be a fantastic tool on the stage, but essentially I'm not really into machinery, and I'm not really I'm into very basic theatrical techniques, actually. Yeah, I mean, one of my greatest influences in my life is really Far Eastern style theater, kabuki, no theater, those kind of forms where it's basically very basic, and it's very movement oriented, and it's like a rituals brought onto the stage. I mean, I think that today that really, in a way, theater and especially opera can be like they're one of the last sort of collective ritual experiences where lots of people can come together in a place. Not, you know, in a way, it's what church was for people in the past. I think that music and theater and opera have become, in a way, that kind of place to live out these things together. Where do I go now?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, my life goes on and on and on in theater and opera. I'm booked ahead. I know about 5 years in advance now, really, where I'm going to be all the time. When I'm not directing an opera, then I'm hopefully at home studying a new piece, which I'm going to do 2, 3, 4 years in advance. Because I'm very busy, and I like to keep busy, and I'm very ambitious to direct many more pieces. I have to be very focused, and my life is really very timed out very carefully for that. And sometimes it's a little bit annoying, and I wish I could just throw it all away and disappear. But most of the time, I'm very energized by it, and I really like it. I'm constantly influenced by, I mean, I read a tremendous amount of every kind of writing, and I go to the theater a lot when I have the time, and I watch movies all the time. So I don't know, it's very hard to say. I'm constantly taking in. At the moment, I'm most influenced by watching CNN and YouTube, the current Donald Trump situation in America. This is really, for Americans, especially Americans abroad, Americans who aren't at home, this is now, nothing is as entertaining in a strange way, and obsessively fascinating and horrifying. And I mean, nothing I can see at the moment in movies, theater, or anything can live up to the drama that's going on in America right now. And I'm glued to the news when I'm away from rehearsals.